nītāyi gauracanda Shab avatara shara shiromani Kepala ananda khanda Kepala ananda khanda Shab avatara shar shiromani Kepala ananda khanda Kepala ananda khanda Bhaja bhaja bhai Chaitanya nithai Shudrira vishasha kori Bhaja bhaja bhai Chaitanya nithai Shudrira vishasha kori Vishayacharya Shiroshe Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Vishayacharya Shiroshe Majiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Shiroshemadiyam Parama Koruna Pohudu Ijana Nitayi Gaura Chandra Dekha ore bhai Shri Bhuvane Nai Emon Doyal Data Dekha ore bhai Shri Bhuvane Nai Emon Doyal Data Pashu Paki Jude Oshana Bidare Shuni Jada Gunagata Pashu Paki Jude Shuni Jada Gunagata Pashu Paki Jude Oshana Bidare Shuni Jada Gunagata Shunidara Gunagata Shangshada Majiye Rohire Pori Eshe Pore Nahilo Asha Shangshada Majiye Rohire Pori She Pore Nahilo Asha Apana karamam Unjaya Shamana Kaha Helochana Dasha Apana karamam Unjaya Shamana Kaha Helochana Dasha kohe lochana dasya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Vihari, Radha Madhava, Jai Kunja Jai Gopi Jana Ballabha, Jai Girivardhari, Jai Girivardhari, Jai Girivardhari, Jai Girivardhari, Jashodanandana, Jai Brajajana Ranjana, Jai Brajajana Ranjana, Brajajana Ranjana, Jai Brajajana Jamuna Tida Banachare, Jai Kunjave Hare, Jai Kunjave Hare, Jai Jamuna Tida Banachare, Jai Kunjave Hare, Jai Kunja Kish Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. Jai Nitai Gauranga, Gaura Hare. Jai Sachinandan, Jai Sachinandan. Jai Sachinandan, Gaura Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Oh, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaud Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramhangsha Puribrajagacharya Ashtatar Sarashamachala Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki ISKCON Pradhishthatacharya Śrīla Prabhupada ki Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Shishinitai Gauda Shita Nātha Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. So we are very fortunate to have with us His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhu. So His Grace Atul Krishna Prabhu joined ISKCON Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir in 1985, where Prabhuji served as a book distributor and fundraiser from 1986 to 1996. Then he joined the Bangladesh Yatra in 1996 and he preached in villages for 4 years during which he learned fluent Bengali. And then he began teaching in Mayapur Institute from 2000. He teaches both in Bengali and English medium. He teaches the Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav and teacher training courses throughout India, Bangladesh, Southeast Asia, Australia and the Middle East. He is currently serving as the chairman of the ISKCON Board of Examiners, which sets standards for the Shastric study courses in ISKCON. So Prabhuji has been training many teachers in ISKCON.
Hare Krishna. This is Atul Krishna Prabhu is a very great teachers training course teacher also. Myself, Radha Gopinath Prabhu and many of us, we went to Mayapur. We have taken the training of TTC1, TTC2 and BSTTC. All these things he taught personally. And you have to really participate in his course to see how he teaches. He's an extraordinary teacher. Actually, many of us were very close to personalities. After associating with him, he really blossomed our personality in becoming a teacher. We would hardly move our hands or legs, but Prabhuji would never sit in one place. He would jump all around the hall and he's teaching TTC. He was such a vibrant teacher and formed very deep impressions in our hearts for long years to come. Also, when I went to Mayapur, he always would invite me to his house. He and his good Bengali wife, in their home, they live just like any Bengali family. Although Prabhuji is from Melbourne, Australia, he has lived in the midst of Bangladesh Vasis. So he has captured the culture of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers. So when I went to their house, the prasadam gave was exactly like Bengali prasad. A to Z, the way he served the prasad and the achar and the etiquettes that he follows very meticulously. So he has captured the essence of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, the culture of Lord Chaitanya and his followers. And he also speaks in Bengali. He travels across Bangladesh quite a bit, part of the year, to preach in Bengali language. And he also is very dear to the hearts of internationally many devotees who come to Mayapur looking for him and attending his courses. Apart from teaching TTC, teaching styles and all, he also is a course setter, like Bhakti Shastri course. In those days, that was the only course known to people. At that time, he was already designing Bhakti Vaibhava. So he was slowly bringing up the Bhakti Vaibhava material one by one. He was one of the first teachers, I can say, who made the Bhakti Vaibhava material. And after that, now worldwide, everybody is now using Bhakti Vaibhava teaching now. And now he is embarking on further courses, more advanced courses now. So Mayapur is the headquarters of ISKCON Society. And he has a very vibrant role in teaching in Mayapur. Education and teaching which Prabhupada wanted there, enlightening all the devotees coming there, and also personally he's a very good human being, very welcoming, and he makes everybody chant and dance in Gaur Kirtan. And actually many of us, myself, Sitaram Prabhu and all, always admire him for his consciousness, his full-blown Krishna consciousness. Generally it's very difficult to get him out of Mayapur. Now Attapur opening was there and Sitaram Prabhu knows him very closely, so we got him here. But we will request Prabhuji to keep coming like this often and spending time with all our devotees. He can go around to all our youth centers. He can bring life to our centers, bring up our enthusiasm and spirit from us. So let us welcome Atul Krishna Prabhu to Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Temple. Hari Bo! Hari Bo! Atul Krishna Prabhu ki
Dashoshmi. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Shri Shri Nitai Gauchandra ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dharma Prauchita Kaitava Atra Paramanyanamat Saranam Satam. atra ashtu shivadam tapatroy unmulanam Srimad Bhagavatam Mahamune Krite King Vaipada Ishvara Shaddaridi Avaruddhate Atra Kriti Vishushushivitakshanat. Tvad-dattayā vayunayedam acaṣṭa viśvaṁ supta-prabuddha iva nātha bhavat-prapannaḥ tasyāpavargya-śaraṇaṁ tava pāda-mūlam vismaryate kṛta-vidā katham ārta-bandho tvad-dattayā vayunayedam acaṣṭa viśvaṁ supta-prabuddha iva nātha bhavat-prapannaḥ tasyāpavargya-śaraṇaṁ tava pāda-mūlam vismaryate kṛta-vidā katham ārta-bandho. Please chant. tvad-dattayā vayunayedam acaṣṭa viśvaṁ tvad-dattayā, given by you, vayunayā, by knowledge, idam, this, acaṣṭa, could see, viśvam, whole universe, supta-prabuddhaḥ, a man rising from sleep, iba, like, nātha, O my Lord, bhavat-prapannaḥ, Lord Brahmā, who is surrendered unto you, tasya, his, āpavargya, of persons desiring liberation, śaraṇam, the shelter, tava, your, pāda-mūlaṁ, lotus feet, vismaryate, can be forgotten, kṛta-vidā, by a learned person, katham, how, ārta-bandho, O friend of the distressed. O Master, Lord Brahmā, the translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, O Master, Lord Brahmā, O Master, O my Master, as Dhruva Maharaj speaking. Praying to the Lord, Dhruva Maharaj. O my Master, Lord Brahmā is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe, just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties. You are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. How, therefore, can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be forgotten, even for a moment, by his surrendered devotees. The devotee understands that the Lord's coarsest mercy is beyond his estimation. He cannot know how much he is benefited by the grace of the Lord. The more a devotee engages himself in devotional service of the Lord, the more encouragement is supplied by the energy of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that those who are constantly engaged in devotional service with love and affection, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives intelligence from within, and thus they may make further progress. Being so encouraged, the devotee can never forget at any moment the Personality of Godhead. He always feels obliged to him for having achieved increased power in devotional service by his grace. Saintly persons like Shanak, Sanatan, and Lord Brahmā were able to see the universe by the mercy of the Lord. Through knowledge of the Lord. The example is given that a person may apparently abstain from sleep all day, but as long as he is not spiritually enlightened, he is actually sleeping. He may sleep at night and perform his duties in the daytime, but as long as he does not come to the platform of working in spiritual enlightenment, he is considered to be always sleeping. A devotee therefore never forgets the benefit derived from the Lord. The Lord is addressed here as ārta-bandho, which means friend of the distressed. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, after many, many births of executing severe austerities in search of knowledge, one comes to the point of real knowledge and becomes wise when one surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosopher, who does not surrender unto the Supreme Person, is understood to be lacking in real knowledge. The devotee in perfect knowledge cannot forget his obligation to the Lord at any moment. Śrīla Prabhupada ki. Bande aham Shri Guru, Shri Juta-pada-kāmalam, Shri Guru and Vaishnavaṁ-scha, Shri Rupam Shakadajatam, Sahagana Raganatam, Vitantam Shajivam, Sadvaitam, Savadutam, Parijana-shaitam, Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Sri Radha Krishna Padan, Sahagana Lalita Shibishakam Vitamscha, Mantra Guru, Jota Shikha Guru Gon, Tācārane Agi Kariya Bandhan, Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripashandabebacha, Patitanam Pavanebo Vaishnavebo Namo Namaha, Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharyane Nirvishesha Shannavadi Prashtatta Desha Tarine Śrīla Prabhupada ki. Mukam Kardati Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Chakrapatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. The Lord here is addressed as ārta-bandho, which means the friend of the distressed. Ārta-bandho. Ami bino, bandhu aro, kaya-che tomar. Ami bino, besides me. Ami bino, bandhu aro, kaya-che tomar. Who do you have as a friend? Ami bino, besides me. And this verse is reminding me of Mahaprabhu's style, a mood of preaching, particularly in Nadia. Jeev Jago, Gauda Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra Jaya Maya, Pishachira Kole, on the lap of the Pishachi, the witch. Kota Nidra Maya, how long you will remain asleep on the lap of the witch of Maya. N.H. Oshod, I bought the medicine. N.H. Maya Nashi Bado Lage, which will destroy that illusion. Maya nashi badolage, Harinama Mahamantra lao tumi mage, I'm begging. Lao tumi mage. Mahaprabhu's preaching in Navadip is very sweet. Very sweet preaching. This is the kirtan in the morning. Udilo oruna purava bhage, dvijamani gauda amani jage. Udilo orun, when the rising reddish color, in so many buildings here, we don't see the Udilo Aruna, we don't see the reddish risings. In Mayapur you see, hopefully you'll see, but buildings are coming up in Mayapur. But the sunrise in Mayapur, very beautiful. It's very burning, bright, reddish. Arun, Udilo Arun, the rising Udilo Arun, Purabha-bhage in the eastern side, Dvijamani, he's the jewel of the Navadip Brahmins. We were discussing how even from his early years of study, Gauchandra was exceptional as a student. Joto Bhakka Gangadhash Pandit Koren, Shukrit Shunile Matro Thakur Dhoren, Joto Bhakka Gangadhash Pandit Koren, whatever Gangadhash Pandit said, Joto Bhakka Gangadhash Pandit Koren, Shukrit Shunile Matro Thakur Dhoren, hearing it once, he remembered. Hearing it once, whatever his teacher said. It was so extraordinary. Actually, I was reading recently Sri Chaitanya Bhagavatam, and I was astonished by one aspect that we discovered, that Mahaprabhu, he was at home, he learned the alphabet from Jagannath Mishra. He learned the Bengali alphabet, and all of the Nadia Bashis, they were charmed hearing him pronounce the syllables, ka, ga, ga, and learning Bengali. Would you like to see Choto Nimai, ka, ga, ga? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's learning. And then he began writing the script, and he would write the names of Krishna. Murari, Bangshidhari, Govinda Gopal. No one even told him. He would just write the names of Krishna. Gore, Sharva Shastra Samahito, Goshtimache, Prabhu, Podite, Hoilu Chitto. At home, he had already learned everything. At home, he had Sharva Shastra Samahito. He had already learned all of the scriptures at home. Goshtimache, Prabhu, Podite, Hoilu Chitto. Goshtimache. In the association of others, Prabhu, Podite, Hoilu Chitto. But he had a desire to study in the association of others. Now, I was fascinated by that, because that's not mentioned. That's mentioned in chapter Chaitanya Bhagavat, chapter 6. Up to that point, Adi Khanda, there's no mention that Prabhu desired to have association and study with others. The desire appeared in his heart. I thought that was fascinating, that desires enter into the heart of the Lord. Even though he is Purnam. In Leela, desires enter. Hoilo Chitto, it emptied into his heart. He wanted to associate with others and study. Why? Because he's Dijamani. He's the crest jewel of the Navadip Brahmins. So he has to shine amongst all of the Navadip Brahmins. And at that time, Navadip was the center. Chaturdike hoite lok Navadipe joy, Navadipe poile biddarosh pai. From all directions, the scholars of India and students would come to Navadip. Chaturdik hoite, from all directions, Navadipe joy. They're coming to Navadip. Navadipe poile biddarosh pai. Because if you study in Navadip, you get a taste for learning. Biddarosh pai. So all of the scholars were coming. And amongst those brilliant scholars, he was the Dvijamani, the crest jewel of the Navadip Brahmins. And in this way, he enjoys, just like when he appears as Sri Krishna Gopal and associates with the Gopas. He's the cowherd boy, and he's the Braja Jana Ranjan. He's the darling of the Brajavashis, the Nandagram, Gokul, the darling. When he comes as Ramchandra, he is the most ideal king, most exemplary, most integrity, most ideal. When he comes as Shachinandan, he's the most brilliant learned scholar. And in this way he enjoys. And in this way he absorbs all the minds of all the Navadip Basis, even before Shachinandan revealed himself as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, all of the Navadip Bashis were constantly absorbed in thinking of him, because he was the crest jewel of the Navadip Brahmins. Dichamani go to Amani Jage. He wakes up, Bhakata Shamoha Laya, taking the devotees with him. Shate Gelo Nogoda Braje. He goes out into the villages and the somewhat cities. Gelo Nogoda Braje. Tatai bhajaloko, the sound of the mridanga. This poetry of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the words, they sound like what he's describing. Tatai bhajaloko. The mridanga is tapping. Tatai. Ghana gana tahe jajaloro. Ghana gana. The kartals are chiming. Preme dala dala shonara anga. Chodane nupura bhaji. Preme dala dala shonara anga. His golden limbs are dala dala. They're quivering in love of Godhead as he's hearing the kirtan. Preme dala dala shonara anga. Chodane nupura bhaji. Ching 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 ching. This is how we worship. Shochinandan Dvijamani. We're worshipping. They're beautiful with the long, beautiful hair. The Navadeep Chandra, the rising moon of Navadeep. This is we're worshipping Nitai Gaur in this way. And he would wonder in the morning time, every morning. Last night we did a Nagar Kirtan on the streets of Attapur. But it is a little different. The streets it's all broken and it's not so easy, and the people are the rules. Driving in India, the rules are anywhere there's a space you can go. If the car fits, you can drive there. You know? As long as your hand is on the horn. That's the rules in driving in India. We were doing it, and in the evening time, people come out at the evening time. They get all excited in the evening. Get all excited in the evening. We don't do kirtan in the bhorbela, in the dawn. But Mahaprabhu in the dawn, in the morning time, he would take the devotees and go and do so. Who are those devotees? Shribas, Gadadha, Advaita Acharya, all of the Gauranga Shangingon, his associates, who appeared just to associate with him and perform the Sankirtan pastimes. Prabhu was mentioning that I visited Bangladesh. I had the experience of Nagar Kirtan in the morning time in Bangladesh, particularly in the Kartik month. Still in Mayapur now, you'll see the devotees, the Bengali devotees, Grihastu devotees, they do Kirtan in the morning around the suburbs of Mayapur. The Ganganagar, Alvainagar, there's suburbs in Mayapur. They do. But in Bangladesh, that was an experience that only I think you can experience in Bangladesh. I think the only place on the planet that you can experience that as the sun is rising over the fields in the north. I was in North Bengal. It's undeveloped place, North Bengal, and villages. There was a huge river, Jamuna River. Recently I was there in the end of monsoon season. We went by train to North Bengal. We crossed Jamuna River. It took us 25 minutes on the train to cross the river. That's how huge. That's why there's a saying there in Bengal that koto gora hati gelo tol mosha bole koto jol, that how many horses and elephants were swept away in the current. Horses and elephants were swept away, and the mosquito is asking, how much water is there? When I first heard that, I thought rivers in Australia is like you can throw rivers. You can throw a stone across. I thought, what is that? Okay, the water in the river. What's the big deal? But then I saw monsoon rivers in Bengal. They're like ocean. You cannot cross. So North Bengal is underdeveloped place, huge, and then they build a bridge, huge bridge. Sheikh Hasina built a huge bridge. And we were in the morning. We would go and Nagar Sankirtan at 5:30, 5 a.m., 5:30, and we were doing kirtan. And then the devotees still. If you go on Parikrama in Mayapur, Muktidatta Prabhu, he was here for the opening, and they sing this song: Udulu Aduna Pura Baba Age Dvijamani Goda Amani Jang. They sing on the Parikrama in the morning at that time. It's a morning kirtan, that one. And we would go on Sankirtan, we'd sing that tune and then sing Mahamantra. And all of the people, Bangladesh is a Muslim country, but still, those experiences I had, I guess we were in the areas there where the Sanatana Dharma people, Hindu people were living. And they're not, because what we say, devotees, we say devotees. When someone wears tilak, then we generally, they're a devotee. Even prior to that we say devotee, but wearing tilak, they're a devotee. These people were not what we would say devotees. They were just village people. But still the tradition is there. When they heard the kirtan, and then they would all come out. They would come out and they would fall on the ground and pay obeisances and sometimes roll on the ground after we passed to get the dust. Shuddha bhakata charana renu bhajana anukul. Shuddha bhakata charana renu. The dust of the lotus feet of a Shuddha bhakata is bhajana anukul. It's conducive for worshipping Krishna, for your Krishna worship. Sometimes roll on the ground. And they would bring offering, they would bring fruits, they would bring rice. And we would collect that rice in a I don't know if you do that, but they would collect that rice in a bag, and all different types of rice. All different types of rice. And then that rice, we would after Sankirtan, we would come back, we would cook that rice. And we've heard that rice is very much, priya is golda priya, that rice which is collected from begging. But that was very sweet, that type of kirtan at 5 a.m. in the morning, even before you've chanted your rounds. It's very sweet. It's a very special kirtan rosh, kirtan anando. And Mahaprabhu every day he enjoyed, and this is Mahaprabhu's preaching style. Who can not join the Sankirtan movement of Mahaprabhu? Kebala, we sang the song Kebala Ananda Kanda. Who cannot join and dance and raise your arms and chant? It was such a sweet style of preaching. Tataita bhajana. And then Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari Bolena Vorore Badana Bori. With joy you chant the names Mukunda Madhava Yadav Hari. Michi Nidha Gelode Dashe Dibosha Shadirisha. You're sleeping all night, and Dibosha in the day, Sharira Shaja, you're just serving your bodies. The same as Prabhupada saying in the purport. They're sleeping all night, but at the daytime they sleep also. Jivana anita janaha shar. This life is temporary. Janaha. Tahenana vida bipodba. And simply it is variety of suffering. Nana vida bipod. That's the only thing we can say about it is there's variety in the suffering. You can either take a train to Kolkata from Mayapur, and it's late and it's pushing, or you can take the road. At least you have a choice in the suffering. Nama shraya kurijatana tumitakana apana kaje. Therefore, your main business should be not to try to alleviate these sufferings, because they're going to come anyway. That's the essence. Jivana anita janahashar tahenana bida bipodba. It's just variety of suffering and trouble. Anitam ashukam lokam. So even you endeavor so much, you cannot overcome the suffering. So nama ashraya kori jatana tumi. Then you just take shelter of the holy name. Takana apanakaj. This should be your main work. This should be your main business. We're hearing about Prabhupada's describing his father, Guru Mohan, who he described as a Shuddha Bhakta, a pure devotee. Although he wasn't preaching. But he would read Srimad Bhagavatham, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and chant on his japamala. And Prabhupada said that was his main business, was puja and bhajan and sravan. And he would worship the Lord at night and chant and a few hours in the office. So this is the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You go on with your life, your business, you maintain your family, or if you're fortunate to be a monastic life, it's even easier. The main business should be to nama shraya. And then Jeev Jago, the song carries on. Thakur Bhaktivinoda is describing Mahaprabhu's preaching. Mahaprabhu's preaching in Navadip, very, very sweet. It's simply Sankirtan. এই শিখানিয়া সব নারিয়ে ফিচে নেচে গৌনিতায় রাধা কৃষ্ণ বল বল বলো রে সবাই এই শিখানিয়া সব নারিয়ে ফিচে নেচে Fiche means he's wandering. Fiche means randomly wandering. Just wandering, no particular plan. Fiche neche and dancing. In dancing. I think it was Nietzsche, one German philosopher, said, I would believe in God if he danced. Yes? If only we had had Prabhupada's books at that time to be able to distribute to him. He would have become a big preacher, big, intelligent. But I was listening, Prabhupada, Sri Thakur said to Prabhupada that you should preach in English language, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching, to the people in general, to the religionists and to the philosophers, specifically. So in Navadip, Mahaprabhu's preaching was so sweet. Mahaprabhu is not giving lecture so much. It's just Shobnadiya fiche neche gonita Radha Krishna bol de shabai. Radha Krishna bolo shonge chalo ei matro bikachai. Radha Krishna bolo shonge chalo. Carry on with what you're doing and ei matro and chant Hare Krishna. Radha Krishna bolo shonge chalo. Means you cholo, you do what you're doing, and shonge along with that Radha Krishna bolo. Ei matro bikachai. This is all I'm requesting of you. It's Kebala Ananda Kanda. There's so many in our movement. In Bengal, the preaching is so extraordinary. I think more than half of our, at least much more than half of our movement is Bengali devotees, actually. We don't know. In Bangladesh alone, there's 40 or 50,000 initiated devotees. At least 30,000 initiated devotees in Bangladesh. And there's 100,000 initiated devotees in ISKCON. And that's not counting West Bengal. And what is big of Bengal, the Gaudiya Bhaktagon, they're everywhere in ISKCON. Everywhere. Preaching in Bengal. We were discussing, I think yesterday in the class, Mahaprabhu ordered Nityananda Prabhu preach in Bengal. Bengal preaching. Because the kirtan. Because Mahaprabhu, he toured, and therefore there's the kirtan rush, there's the ruchi kirtan, the nam ruchi for the kirtan. Bengali devotee, Gauda Bhaktan on the kirtan. When the devotees arrived in Jagannath Puri, the first arrival, that sent word, Mahaprabhu completed his South Indian tour. And the first arrival they sent Kala Krishna Das, they sent him to do some seva. You tell Sachi Mata, you take Jagannath Prasad, the mala for Sachi Mata. You tell the devotees that Mahaprabhu has returned from South India. He'd just taken sannyas and he went to Puri. And Sachi Mata said, you stay in Puri because they'll be coming and going. The Gauda Bhaktagon, they go to Jagannath Puri for Jagannath Darshan. And the Oriya Bhaktagon, they go to Gauda Desh for Mahaganga Snan. So they will be coming and going. But Mahaprabhu, he didn't stay in Jagannath Puri. He immediately left South Indian tour. 2 years, no news. They were every night doing Sankirtan with Navadip Chandra and Nitai Chand, and seeing the dancing in the house of Srivas Thakur, and seeing his preaching every night, every day. And then, can you imagine the feelings when he took sannyas and left? And then no news, you imagine? So then Nityananda Prabhu, it is Kala Krishna Das Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to have him around me anymore. And then the devotees thought, what will we do with him? Jagadananda Mukunda Datta Nityananda Prabhu, Damodar Sarup. They accompanied Mahaprabhu to Jagannath Puri and they remained there when he went on the South Indian tour. And then again they're mentioned as a group when Mahaprabhu returns. And they said, well, immediately we have to inform the devotees. They didn't know. Mahaprabhu left for South India. They didn't know when he's coming back. Nityananda Prabhu, he wanted to come along. We hear Vrindavan Thakur describes Nityananda Prabhu 20 years touring all the holy places in India. 20 years. He's 10 years older than Sachinandan. So at 12 years old, he left home. And 20 years touring. So when they're in Puri, and Mahaprabhu said, I will go to search out Vishwarup. That was the reason he said, to search out Vishwarup, who had traveled and taken sannyas. And eventually we hear that he attained Samadhi in Pandarapur. Mahaprabhu wanted to search out Vishwarup. And he got that information from Paramananda Puri when he was in Pandharpur, that Vishwarup had attained samadhi at this place. So Mahaprabhu, and then Nityananda Prabhu, I will come along with you. I know all the paths in South India. Prema beshe, tumi ojokon hobe ocheton, ei shob shamigrike korirokon. When you fall down on the path, unconscious, prema beshe, overwhelmed in love of Godhead, pote hobe ocheton, you will fall down unconscious. Ei shob shamigrike korirokon, who will look after your danda and your mala and your extra set of cloth? I will accompany you. No, you brought me here to. My only possession was that danda, which you broke. So I'm not. I'm going alone. So then the devotees were arriving. They came. Kala Krishna Das, he gave news. He went and gave the information. Immediately the devotees prepared to travel to Jagannath Puri. They had a festival. The news was given by Kala Krishna. They all came to Advaita Thakur's house, Advaita Shobha. Advaita Thakur, that's why he has beard. Because he is the Vaishnav Shrestha. He is the senior most Vaishnav of all the Navadip Vaishnavas, Advaita Thakur. And so they were all gathering at his, and the news was being disseminated that Sachinandan has returned from the South Indian tour. And so they were planning, and they had festival. It wasn't, let's WhatsApp message and this and that. They came together and they had Sankirtan festival, Prasadam, Kirtan, Bhagavat Kotha, while they were making their plans. And then they came. They all came together, and then they arrived. Now, when they're arriving in Jagannath Puri, Bhattacharya, Sarvabhauma, and Prataparudra Maharaj, he wasn't there when Sachinandan first arrived and delivered Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was there for 4 or 5 weeks only. At that time, Prataparudra Maharaj was at another place, out of station. He wasn't there. He came back and he'd heard about Gauranga, about the Sachinandan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the sannyasi, who Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained is Swayam Bhagavan. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was the most ardent of the impersonalists. The most ardent of the impersonalists. And subsequently, he couldn't even, the word mukti he couldn't say the word mukti. Was that Bhakti Pade Sadaya Bhak? He changed the verse. Mahaprabhu said, you changed the verse. I cannot say that word. He became extreme devotee. Couldn't say mukti. So that was very significant. The preaching of Sachinandan after taking sannyas, the style of preaching changed. We were describing the sweet, simple, rural style, sweet, the kirtan. Mahaprabhu dancing, he's preaching and he's dancing. But after taking sannyas, went to Jagannath Puri, then he sat and he spoke the Vedanta, Siddhanta, the Bhakti Siddhanta. He spoke philosophy. We don't hear descriptions of that when he's preaching in Navadip. He's doing kirtan, and by his dancing, by his beautiful form, he's changing everyone's heart and turning them to Krishna Bhakti. But after taking sannyas, he became formal, much more formal in his preaching style, and sat down philosophy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then Ramananda Roy also had philosophy. And then the whole Dakshin Bharat tour, philosophy, Tattvadis, Vyankat Bhatta, Sri Rangam, philosophy, Mahaprabhu's teaching. But Prataparudra, so he'd heard, so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is explaining, he's not just an ordinary sannyasi, he's Swayam Bhagavan. Prataparudra Maharaj already developing that desire to take association. He came, why did you let him go? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Swatantro, he can do as he likes. How could we control him? Even I wanted to go with him, Nityananda, he didn't allow. So then he had arrived, he'd come back just before Snan Yatra. He arrived just before. And after Snan Yatra, he'd gone to Alalanat. And then they were discussing, how can we, the Prataparudra Maharaj, how can we bring him back? So they sent a group of devotees to Alalanath, and what did they say? They didn't say, "Oh, you have to come back. You've been away so long. Now it's time to come back." They didn't say, "The king is requesting you to come back." They didn't say, "The king is ordering you to come back. The king wants you," or Sarvabhauma wants you. They didn't even say, "Please come back." They just said that 200 devotees are arriving in Jagannath Puri from Bengal. That's all they said. Gauda hoite Vaishnav Ashiyat Chindui Shatta Mahaprabhu Bhakti Shab Mahabhagavata. 200 devotees have arrived from Bengal. They're all gathered on the banks of the Narendra Sarovar. Mahaprabhu Bhakti Shab Mahabhagavata. All greatly advanced devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu, he came back to, this is a beautiful description of it. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhva Lila, chapter 11, Veda Kirtan pastimes, that Mahaprabhu, he came back to receive those devotees from Bengal. And he sent Sarup Damodar and Govinda, his servant, with the Jagannath Mala garland and the prasad, and they offered to Advaita Acharya. And on the roof, the King Prataparudra and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Govinath Acharya, they're seeing this description. And then the king, he asks Bhattacharya, "You tell me, who are all these devotees? I want to hear their names." And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, "Actually, I've been away from Bengal for a long time. I don't know them." The Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vidyanagar, Madhusudhan Bachaspati, 2 brothers in Vidyanagar, Navadip. But he left and went to Mithila and then went to Jagannath Puri. So he was from Navadip, but a long time. So the Gopinath Acharya, he's mentioning all of those devotees, and they're all enumerated. 20 or 30 names are mentioned. It's not that he just says, "And the devotees from Bengal came." Very poetically, because hearing their names were purified. And as the king is hearing all of these different, then he's astonished by the style of their movement. When we go traveling, it's all where, a taxi, order, it's like anxiety, you got that. Personally, I always travel well in advance. I heard Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also did that. I travel well in advance, always early. And then you can be peaceful. If you travel regularly, you're late departure, you're always in anxiety. You see most people, they're there, they're like, at every queue, they're like, in anxiety. That's very bad for your heart. Stress. So you just be early, 1 hour early, and you can anything can happen. It's okay, we have time. And then you just sit and chant Hare Krishna. So what was the style of the devotees arriving in Jagannath Puri? They're not like that, what time's prasadam? When are we going to eat? Where am I going to stay? Where's my room? Nothing like that. They're just traveling, they're doing Sankirtan. And when the king of Puri, he saw the Navadip Vashis, the Gauda Bhaktagan, he saw them arriving in Jagannath Puri. Prabhupada comments that there's so many Sankirtan parties in Jagannath Puri. Even now, 500 years later, we see so many Sankirtan parties on the Grand Road in Jagannath Puri. You can imagine at the time of Prataparudra Maharaj and how beautiful the Sankirtan would have been. But he's seeing the Sankirtan, he's saying, "I've never seen Ache Prem, Ache Nitya, Ache Hari Dhani, Kaha nahe shuni, Kaha nahe deke, Ache Kaha nahi shuni." Ache Prem, this love, this love. I've never seen Ache Prem, Ache Nitya, this dancing as they were arriving, coming down the road. Ache Hari Dhani, Ache Hari Dhani, the sound of Lord Hari, the names of Hari, Hari. Hari Hari, they're chanting, Ache Hari Dhani. Kaha nahe deki, Ache kaha nahi shuni. I've never seen, I've never heard this kirtan like this. And he's the king of Jagannath Puri. Yeah. In this way, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, through the lips of the king, is establishing the exalted nature of the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Any common fellow can say, "Oh yeah, that Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, very special." But who cares what the common fellow says? But when the king of Orissa, when he glorifies, then that's something very significant. Upon the first seeing the Gauda Bhaktagan and the Kirtan, he's completely astonished. And Sabhavama Bhattacharya Kohe, a Modhura Bhachan, this sweet sound, Chaitanya Shrishti, a Prem Shankirtan. This is the creation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is the Prem Shankirtan. The Prem Shankirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu is preaching after taking sannyas is more formal. Of course, the Prem Shankirtan, the Shankirtan movement is always essential in the preaching, in the Sankirtan movement. But yes, after sannyas, Mahaprabhu is preaching more philosophical. And this is the essential means by which we awaken the conditioned souls. Today we're talking about Dhruva Maharaj is glorifying the Lord for awakening Lord Brahma, and enlightening him so that he could create the whole universe. And the actual process of awakening that Mahaprabhu has come to give us is the Nam Sankirtan. That is the fundamental program of our preaching. The Nam Sankirtan and subsequently the further enriched. Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the Brihat Mridanga, the book distribution and the Nam Sankirtan. And our temples are all simply for facilitating the hearing of Krishna's glories to the common people. So that's some thoughts on today's prayers of Dhruva Maharaj. Is there any questions, comments?
Thank you, Prabhu. It was very enlivening to hear about Nama Sankirtan. Thank you. I wanted to know, regarding Lord Nityananda Prabhu's preaching in Bangladesh, we don't get much in Chaitanya Bhagavata, Chaitanya Charitamrita. But do we get somewhere, any other literature?
Chaitanya Bhagavat. Well, because Chaitanya Bhagavat is the Navadip Lila, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Navadip Lila. Because Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adikanda, Madhya-kanda is Navadip Lila, and Mahaprabhu takes sannyas at the end of the Madhya-kanda, 27 chapters. So there's, and Adikanda, Chaitanya Bhagavat, 19 chapters. So you have 46 chapters on Navadip Lila in Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is summarized in Chaitanya Charitamrita in 4 chapters. Adi Lila, chapters 14 to 17. There's a summary of those 2, Adikanda, Madhya-kanda, Chaitanya Bhagavat. So, so much of Mahaprabhu's...
After Lord Nityananda comes to the home of Nandanacharya, Mahaprabhu meets him, and that is the time they both dance together and Leela starts in Sankirtan. So, after Mahaprabhu went to Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu told him to go to Bengal, and preach in Bengal, Nityananda Prabhu. So, do we read about it anywhere elaborately?
There's some descriptions of Lord Nityananda Prabhu's preaching. There's some descriptions in Chaitanya Bhagavat.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a description there where he's in the home and the big Vishnu dutas are there going around the house. They're chanting Hari Hari, Hari Hari.
One thief.
That's in Navad. That's
taking
in
all the thieves into
Bengal.
devotees.
Yeah. So there's some description of Mahaprabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu, he took his Gopas, his associates, and was trying to go back to Bengal, and it was taking him such a long time because they would wander off the path. So there's descriptions, but that's as far as I know. I don't know. There may be other in Chaitanya Mongol, in the Chaitanya Chandrodaya. I don't know those scriptures, so I can't comment. But in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Navadip pastimes and Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu's preaching is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat in various places.
Also, Prabhu, regarding the singing of the Harinam Sankirtan in the streets of Bangladesh, which you said, do they sing the traditional Gaudiya tunes they sing? Because now all over ISKCON, many other tunes have come, ragas have come, which are not traditional Gaudiya. When you go for Sankirtan, what is your opinion?
My dear friend and mentor, Nityalila Pravishta Shri Krishna Kirtan Das Brahmachari, he was the authority. We're so saddened that he's left the planet, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, last year. But I mean, I have his kirtans, and there's no one can do kirtan like him. His kirtan, he was the first Bengali devotee, first Bangladeshi devotee, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. At that time, Bayashiki Prabhu was there, temple president, all foreign devotees, Bhakti Bekashami. He was the first Bengali devotee, and to the end, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. And he was learned, he was from college, he was a student of Bengali, and he was a musician, he was a singer. And I mean, I traveled with him for 2 years. And I remember one time we had a generator, we would have to take our own generator because there's no electricity. And then my only request would be, give me a place to sleep as far away from the generator as possible. So you come back from a program at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and all night the generator. One night generator was not working, and I heard him sing the Gold Arti Kirtan with a harmonium, with 2 mridangas, 4 or 5 kartals, jump up, and 3,000 or 4,000 people there. He sang without a microphone. Such a bhakti, such power in his voice. But he knew, even though no one can do the kirtan like he could, and the way he trained. He was always training. Traveling with him was like traveling with a group of troubadours. So every morning he just here and there in different corners, and tabla and mridanga, and always the instruments would be open, would be there, the tabla, harmonium, and we would be in a village, and all the respectable Hindu people would come, and we would just do bhajan kirtan. And they would come with their family, and he would ask the daughter to sing, and they would sing, everyone. But he would train the devotees in this mridanga playing, and in the style of Padabali Kirtan, Narottam Thakur Mahajan, Padabali Kirtan. Whereas the Krishna Lila is sung. Krishna Lila is sung in beautiful, it goes for many, many hours. Padabali Kirtan, Narottam Mahashai. That's done by professionals in Bangladesh, and they're sometimes criticized as sahajiyas, the professionals. They cry and all of these things. You pay them, they'll cry. But he was a genuine. He wasn't a professional. He was a genuine, and he would do the Padabali Kirtan, and that is the traditional style of the kirtan. And then the bhajans, he would sing the bhajans. So my answer is to this: simply listen to Krishna Kirtan Prabhu's bhajan kirtan. And then you will find the traditional style. Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatham ki, Shira Prabhupada ki, Shishinitai Gaushita Nat Pramanande.